Concerned about an issue in your life? Need some legal direction? You've come to the right place. Welcome to 5-Minute Legal Insights, a podcast that features top lawyers from across the country and delivers bite-sized moments of pure gold, so you can benefit from years of legal know-how in just minutes. Each week, we bring you the things that make the big difference, so you know how to approach your legal situation with confidence and clarity. Now, here's your host and founder of the law firm Authority Network, Grant Eagle.
Welcome to the show, everybody, and I'm here again with Kevin Sprenz, founding partner at Sprenz Law, a well-renowned personal injury and criminal defense firm based out of Las Vegas. Kevin has built a significant reputation in the personal injury space for helping everyday people win exceptional settlements. And today, we're talking about an area that Kevin sees unsuspecting accident victims suffering from time and time again. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Hey, Kevin, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Grant. Thanks for having me back on.
Now, we were talking about some things that you see happening time and time again to people, and I think it would be great if you could just expand on the fact that one of those big things is people not getting treatment when they should.
Right. Yeah. Like we discussed, a lot of people, when they get in an accident, depending on the severity of it, the adrenaline is flowing at the scene. And as they're trying to address those things, they think they're okay. If there's no blood, no bone sticking out, people think, hey, I'm all right. And they go home. Mm-hmm. And as the day progresses and it goes into evening or even the next morning, they start to feel stiff and a little sore. And normal people, most people will try to just take some Advil and kind of ignore it, thinking it's going to go away, or kind of stretch and just kind of deal with it for that day.
Right. And do you find that, they'll keep sort of taking the Advil, thinking at some point it's going to go away over the next couple of days?
Yeah. And that's usually runs into an issue with that, because what they do is they think, okay, I've been sore before from either exercise or something like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
They just kind of think, all right, it's going to pass. And a lot of times it just continues, or other symptoms will start to join. A lot of times you'll get, maybe your neck is stiff if you got rear-ended.
Yeah.
Then headaches will come. Your neck starts to get stiff. Then your entire back starts to be stiff. And you're thinking, well, this is kind of weird. You can feel like it's a flu type symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And try to deal with that. And then some even get like numbness or tingling that'll shoot down into their arms or down to their fingers, or down to their legs, which is another pretty telling sign of a significant injury.
Okay, so, but just wanting to be clear for our listeners, this isn't happening straight away, like the next day, even after the accident. Right,
and that's a good point. A lot of people, when they're in an accident, like I said, there's a big adrenaline thing, and so the officer will ask them at the scene, "Hey, are you okay?" "Yep, I'm fine." "Are you fine?"
Yeah.
Everything's great.
Yeah.
But the way the body works is it protects itself initially with a huge adrenaline rush. And then as the day progresses and that calms down, the injuries start to manifest themselves in different symptoms. And so it could be just like with whiplash, where your muscles basically get 1,000 different little tears in them, and that pain. Or if you had a disc injury, when you look at the spine, that takes actually some time to actually manifest itself as well.
Okay, so let's just be clear with the kinds of injuries in your experience. I mean, we were talking before the show that I know you're not a doctor, but you see these injuries so often that you're quite well versed in the medical terminology for them, right?
Right. Yeah, we see these, within 20 years or so of practice, you see these consistent type of injuries and symptoms, and then of course the objective findings that the doctors are able to note in their charts.
Okay, so let's just try and sort of break it out into a couple of simple areas for people to understand. So if they've had a whiplash injury, for example, and again, they've got no immediate headaches or tingling, how soon after, or how long after, I should rephrase that, are these symptoms starting to appear? Is it a day? Is it 3 days? What's the time of period is it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, it usually starts within 24 hours. A soreness, a stiffness,
right?
Is when it usually starts to show. That's why people, when they get home, they may feel, not feeling well because of the accident, the emotion that goes with it. But it's usually when they wake up the next morning, they're like, whoa, this doesn't feel right. It's worse than like when you wake up sleeping wrong on the pillow, your neck. It's a different type of feeling, but that same kind of thing. We're going, well, this isn't right. But you already have your day scheduled. So a lot of people will go, all right, well, I'll go to work. I'll take the Advil, and that the pain just starts to increase, or the discomfort or the loss of range of motion.
Okay. All right. So, and then if it was like, it wasn't so much just a whiplash neck injury, it was more like I don't know, a vertebrae problem. Are the symptoms different, or is the progression different?
The progression is different, right? So the initial pain and discomfort, again, it depends on how the accident happens, what forces were put on your body.
Yeah.
But say you do have a lower back issue. It's still going to be the same tightness and pain localized, but as the days go on, you can have different types of injuries. So localized pain would be like what you have with just muscle soreness, where your muscles lock up trying to protect the body.
Sure.
But there's little knuckles in your spine called facets. Those can be twisted or really put pressure on them and friction, so to speak, to really inflame those joints.
Yeah.
And that'll be more of an intense pain that doesn't go away with muscle relaxers or waiting and resting.
Yeah.
That's something. Now, if it's a disc injury, where you could herniate the disc, and you think of a disc kind of like a shock absorber between each one of those vertebrae. And there's a little, if you think of a jelly donut inside that vertebrae, there's like a little jelly. And if you compress that disc and make it rupture, or have like an annular tear, they call those, and that jelly starts to leak out, that is very corrosive and agitating to the nerves. And so that takes some time for that to actually happen. Even though you could have that traumatic injury where a tear happens, that fluid, because it's such a thick fluid, it takes a while for it to kind of leak out and agitate those nerves. And so it's one of those things that you don't want to, you don't say everyone, hey, I'm fine, and it keeps getting worse and worse. And when you hit those nerves, that's where you get that radiating pain, or the radicular pain we're talking about, where it travels. Okay. So anything pushing up against those nerves, or that fluid leaking out, it's called internal disc disruption. Right. That is very painful and definitely needs to be addressed.
Okay. So let's just say our listeners now understand this. And for example, let's say they go to the doctor, they say they've been in an accident, and they go after a day, and the doctor says, well, look, you seem okay, you've got a bit of stiffness, and they write you a prescription for some painkillers. Should it just stop there? Or, from a case point of view, they need to be on top of it, right? From a medical treatment.
Correct. Because the main thing to realize is you didn't do anything wrong. So you're in this accident, someone caused this accident. You need to get checked out to make sure you're okay. And so the initial visit, say you go to a quick care or something like that. Yeah. They check you out to make sure you're not going to die. Okay. Right. They go in, they take some x-rays, and they go, all right, here's some Advil, here's muscle relaxant, follow up if you need to. And that's great. It's very palliative. Just kind of makes you feel better at that time. But you need to go and make sure you're okay. And the thing that to really hold on to is that an x-ray, when they take those x-rays, all that does is show bone, right? It doesn't show anything with your disc. I mean, it may show a little disc desiccation or narrowing of the disc, but it doesn't show what would be causing pain. All it is kind of a thing to look at and go, okay, your bone isn't broken. Right. And so those could be negative, but after you leave that emergency room or your primary care doctor, you need to get treatment and make sure, if you're hurting, whether it's a physical therapist, a chiropractor, someone to kind of help you go along as you recover. The time frame for that, for soft tissue injuries, is usually within 6 weeks. You'll start to feel progressively better. If you're not, I'm sorry if I'm running on you, going on here, but
it's important for our listeners to really sort of get an idea of the timeline involved here and what they should be doing.
Right, and so it's important to realize. So there's your conservative treatment for 6 weeks. If you're not getting significantly better, at that point you should be referred to like a pain management doctor. Someone can look at it and kind of go, hey, there's something more here than just muscle spasms or muscle tears. Right. And they can diagnostically look at that. And there's different ways that they treat as well as figure out what your pain generator is. And
Mm.
so that's when an MRI would come in. And that's when that pain management doctor looks and figures out what's the best way to go, whether it's back to conservative treatment, whether it's an injection for the facets or an epidural injection. And they look at those. And if things are still progressing or not progressing in your health wise, that's when they would incorporate an orthopedic surgeon.
Okay, so now let's just go back to a personal injury claim or case. So let's say I've been to the doctor. Well, you also mentioned to me you need to go within a period of time because insurance companies have deadlines, right?
Right. And here's the thing with that too is, and I think I said this in our last one too, is insurance companies are in the business of making money, not paying money out. Yeah. So any chance they get to point to something to say we shouldn't pay this guy or lady, then they'll use that. And so what they look at is if you get an accident and you don't go to a doctor in the first 3 days, 4 days, they say, oh, they weren't hurt because they told the police officer when they're there, I wasn't hurt.
Yeah.
And so they look for those things. And so you need to know, know your body. It's if it's not feeling right, go get checked out, make sure you're okay and get taken care of. It's something that, you're entitled to. If someone causes you harm, it's up to them and their insurance company to make it right, to make you whole.
But the key here to our listeners is if you don't do that, you're severely harming your chances of bringing a case in the future, right?
Correct. Because and I've had significant crashes where you're surprised people walk out and people think, I'm fine, you know, try to be tough. And then they wait so long, a few weeks, 3 weeks, something comes up, they have to go out of town, they come back and they start their treatment 3.5 weeks later. And it could be a significant disc injury. Yeah. Yet there's that gap in treatment that is such a big hurdle to overcome because they'll be saying, hey, jury, I know if people are hurt, if I'm hurt, I go to the doctor. This person did until they talk to an attorney or something like that.
Yeah. So that's key for people to understand. So let's assume that we've been taking your advice, we've been going to the doctor, we've been getting treatment, we might end up seeing some other form of personal cards, medical treatment, such as chiropractor, etc. But you're getting to a point where you really have started to consider bringing, a case. Is that still okay? As long as you've been getting treatment, is it still okay to bring a case at 4 weeks?
Of course. I think the earlier you get an attorney to help guide you through the process, the easier, because you want to make sure when I talk to my clients, I say, hey, your number one job is to get better. Let me handle the insurance company dealing with the property damage and things like that.
Well, bills as well, right?
Of course. And another issue people come up with is when they go see their doctor and they write down car accident, all of a sudden their doctor doesn't want to treat them. They don't want to get involved in litigation. So now you're stuck. You have health insurance. Your doctor won't treat you because he doesn't want to be involved in that. And so what do you do? And so it's important and key that you find an attorney that knows what they're doing, and can help you find the right doctors and get you the treatment you need instead of, oh, my doctor won't see me. Or you call your primary care doctor and they schedule something 6 weeks from now. That doesn't help you, and it surely damages your case. Yeah.
It's great advice. All right. Look, just to sum up on this episode, how would you sort of summarize it for our listeners?
I would say take care of yourself. So if you get an accident, you're gonna feel pain, right? There's regardless of how major it is. Sure. But your body. If you start to feel that this is a different type of pain, within a day or so, just go get checked out. You're entitled to that. You need to do that. And so just do it. If you start seeking treatment, do what the doctor says. If you have appointments, go to them. Don't say, oh, I can't make it today and take a week off or two.
Right. Okay.
Be in touch with your doctor and do what they say.
All right. Great advice. Look, Kevin, it's great to have you back on. For all our listeners listening to this today, if you go to the podcast, click there underneath the podcast, you're going to go straight through to Kevin's website. And I'm sure Kevin will be happy to take your call, right?
I surely will. Yes.
All right, Kevin. Thanks again. And we'll talk soon. Yeah.
All right. Great. Thank you, Grant.
Thanks, man. Take care.
Thanks for joining us in this episode of 5-Minute Legal Insights. If you'd like to contact our featured guest, just check the highlights on their episode page at www.legalinsightspodcast.com, and you'll find their phone number, email, as well as their website. Oh, and if you're a lawyer with something to say, then just get in touch. 5-Minute Legal Insights, helping people get clear on their legal issue in minutes. The views expressed by the participants are their own and are not endorsed by 5-Minute Legal Insights. Nothing said in this podcast is legal advice for you.